Hello everyone. So this is the second video of tillage. So here in this video we are going to discuss modern concept of tillage. In the previous video we have discussed conventional tillage, what is tillage, why it is done. We have seen what is primary and secondary tillage, a proper seed bed, right? Ideal seed bed. Now in this video we'll discuss the modern concept of tillage. So in the end of the previous video we discussed the disadvantage of conventional tillage. So when you go for ploughing, after the ploughing is done, after the field is prepared, the proper seed bed is prepared, the soil is under good tilth. Now the main disadvantage in conventional tillage is that the soil will be left bare open, and left open for the natural forces to act. So it will be easily eroded. If there is rain, the soil can be easily removed. So to protect the soil, okay, to conserve the soil, modern concept of tillage has evolved. So modern concept of tillage, so it is basically conservation tillage. So I already told you, whenever you see the term conservation, basically we are trying to conserve the two most important resources in agriculture, that is soil and water. Okay, so under conservation tillage we have two types. One is minimum tillage and second one is zero tillage. So under minimum tillage we disturb the soil to minimum extent, not like in conventional tillage. Conventional tillage में जो primary tillage, secondary tillage होता है, we don't go to that extent. We disturb the soil to minimum. We go for shallow ploughing. Okay, but in zero tillage we open up the soil using coulters, we open up the soil using discs, okay, just for sowing purpose. So the soil disturbance is almost negligible. So zero tillage is extreme form of minimum tillage. So minimum tillage में थोड़ा बहुत disturb होता है soil, but we make sure that the crop residue covers the soil. Crop residue overturn नहीं होता है. So जैसे conventional tillage में soil will be turned upside down, जो भी तुम्हारा residues है they will be buried, वो नहीं होता है यहाँ पर. So minimum tillage में we go for very shallow ploughing so that seed bed is prepared. Okay, zero tillage is extreme form. We don't disturb the soil, we leave the residues as such on the surface. Here also in minimum tillage, soil disturbance is done to very minimum extent, which is required for seed bed preparation and for sowing, not like in case of conventional tillage. Zero tillage is extreme form. वहां पर बहुत ही कम soil disturb होता है, just for sowing. Okay, we open up the soil using coulters just for placing the seed. Okay, so these are two types under conservation tillage. So modern concept of tillage जब हम लोग discuss कर रहे हैं, so when we are discussing that, it means conservation tillage. Okay, so first we will discuss minimum tillage, then we will go to zero tillage. So in minimum tillage, as the name suggests, we do disturb the soil but to minimum extent, not like in conventional tillage. Soil को पूरा bare open नहीं छोड़ते हैं. Plant residues or the previous season stubble, they remain on the surface. We don't turn them upside down, we don't bury them in the soil. So minimum tillage refers to growing a crop using only that tillage, that amount of disturbance, only that manipulation of the soil which is needed for placing the seed at proper depth and covering it. Just sowing के लिए जितना डिस्टर्बेंस जरूरी है उतना ही हम लोग सॉइल को डिस्टर्ब करते हैं. वी डोंट टोटली ओवरटर्न द सॉइल, वो सब नहीं करते. सो मिनिमम डिस्टर्बेंस टू द सॉइल so that the plant residues, previous season का जो भी crop residues है, they remain on the surface. We don't bury them under the soil. So minimum tillage is aimed at reducing the disturbance to the soil. Tillage में क्या कर रहे हो तुम, पूरा soil को disturb कर रहे हो, ऊपर नीचे upside down पूरा turn करके we are breaking the clods, and we are not doing to that extent. We are disturbing the soil only to that extent which is required for sowing. Okay, so minimum नाम में ही है, we are disturbing the soil, manipulating the soil, but minimum. It is aimed at reducing the tillage to minimum necessary जितना जरूरी है सोइंग के लिए, मिनिमम नेसेसरी फॉर ensuring good seed bed, rapid germination and satisfactory crop establishment. जो अगर seed germinate properly होगा तो you will have enough crop stand, so number of plants. So this can be done by omitting operations which do not give much benefits when compared to the cost, and by combining agricultural operations like seeding and tillage. So टिलेज ऑपरेशन जो ट्रैक्टर से करते हो, सो ट्रैक्टर यू हैव टू रेंट इट इफ यू डोंट ओन इट, और डीजल भी उसका खर्चा होता है, राइट. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो एडेड कॉस्ट, ऑपरेशन ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट में आता है तुम्हारा. प्लविंग ऑपरेशन के लिए जो भी पैसा है दैट विल बी रिड्यूस्ड. ट्रैक्टर इफ यू ओन इट, वेयर एंड टेयर जो ट्रैक्टर का होगा बाय यूसेज दैट विल बी रिड्यूस्ड, राइट. सो अननेसेसरी जो सोइंग के लिए टोटल सॉइल को पूरा डिस्टर्ब करने की जरूरत नहीं है. सो मिनिमम टिलेज और जीरो टिलेज इज बेसिकली प्रैक्टिस्ड इन एरियाज वेयर सॉइल एरोजन इज अ मेजर प्रॉब्लम. सो सॉइल को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए वी गो फॉर कंजर्वेशन टिलेज. सो वी डिस्टर्ब द सॉइल टू मेनी मिनिमम एक्सटेंट विच इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर सोइंग एंड जर्मिनेशन एंड प्रॉपर क्रॉप एस्टेब्लिशमेंट. अननेसेसरी पूरे सॉइल को सॉफ्ट वो सब करने की जरूरत नहीं. जितना सोइंग के लिए और जर्मिनेशन के लिए नीडेड है उतना डिस्टर्ब करते हैं. Okay, because one of the major disadvantage of your conventional tillage was soil will be left bare open and it will be easily eroded, right. Here crop residues from the previous season, they will not be buried under the soil, they will be on the top of the soil, so soil erosion easily nahi hoga. Advantages kya hai? So it improves soil condition due to decomposition of plant residues. So previous season ka jo bhi stubble, whatever plant residues are remaining, they will be on the top of the soil. They will decompose and add organic matter. It will take time, but they will decompose and add organic matter. So it improves the soil physical condition due to incorporation of organic matter. Soil ka structure improve hota hai, aeration will be improved, water holding capacity will be improved. So organic matter in the soil acts as a sponge, वो water को absorb करता है, पकड़ के रखता है, right. So if you have higher organic matter, it can hold water for long period of time, which is available to the plants, and higher water infiltration will be there. So if you have stubbles, if you have higher amount of organic matter, more water will penetrate because soil structure भी अच्छा होगा and easily water will infiltrate and penetrate deep into the soil. So infiltration अगर ज़्यादा होगा तो runoff कम हो जाएगा, right. If whatever rain is received, if majority of the water enters into the soil, less will be available on the surface, runoff will be reduced. Runoff जो जाता है वही तुम्हारा erode करता है. If runoff water flowing on the surface, soil surface के ऊपर जो water flow हो रहा है, this is runoff water. The water which is entering into the soil, it will be held by the soil or it will go deep into the water table. Whatever is moving on the surface, it is runoff. So it is again runoff जो है उसका जो effect है, it will be determined by the slope, the surface area. Effect of runoff will be higher if the slope is greater. वो सब other factors are there. Now this runoff water is mainly the force behind erosion. If amount of water is reduced, runoff water reduce होता है तो erosion भी reduce हो जाएगा. How will the runoff water will be reduced? If majority of the water which is received by rain is entering into the soil, amount of runoff will be reduced. ऊपर रहेगा ही नहीं, पूरा अंदर चले जाएगा. Higher infiltration is caused by vegetation present on the soil and channels that are formed by the decomposition of dead roots. So openings into the soil that will allow easy infiltration of the water into the soil and less runoff will be there, which will reduce the erosion, right. And अगर तुम्हारे soil के ऊपर stubbles हैं, if there are stubbles or residues from the previous season, so this runoff water, its speed will be reduced. अगर तुम्हारा surface smooth है, यहाँ से तुम्हारा runoff बहुत fast जाएगा. The speed of the runoff will be higher. Greater the velocity, higher will be the force to erode. But if the runoff is intercepted by these residues, तो slow हो जाता है. Speed अगर slow होगा तो क्या होगा? It will have enough time to enter into the soil. if the velocity of the runoff is reduced, the channels in the soil will allow more water to enter into the soil and runoff volume will reduce. तो ये स्पीड ब्रेकर की तरह काम करते हैं. The residues which are present on the soil surface, it will act as speed breaker. It will reduce the runoff speed or runoff velocity. Majority of the water will enter into the soil and erosion will be reduced. So less resistant to root growth due to improved soil structure. So soil structure is improved, more openings will be there. So your seeds, once they germinate, their roots can easily penetrate. Okay. Less surface runoff अगर तुम्हारा वॉल्यूम ज्यादा है, उसका वेलोसिटी ज्यादा है, तो एरोजन ज्यादा होगा. इफ volume of runoff is reduced by surface stubbles which are there on the surface or higher infiltration of water into the soil, ultimately the volume will reduce and erosion will reduce. You will have satisfactory crop stand establishment and less soil compaction by reducing the movement of heavy tillage vehicles. So tractor भी चलता है ना soil के ऊपर. So whenever ploughing is done, only the surface soil, top 30 to 40 centimeters of the soil will be ploughed. But what about the lower layers? इतना heavy tractor जा रहा है तो lower layers will become more and more compact season after season. Every season you are just ploughing the top soil जहां पर root growth concentrated है. But what about the lower layers? That heavy tractor is running on the field, so soil will become more compact. But here in minimum tillage, more organic matter is added. So compared to the conventional tillage where soil will become loose after the tillage but only top soil, what about the lower layers? Because the heavy tractor is moving, it is making the top soil loose, but lower layers will be bearing the weight of the tractor. तो नीचे वाले layers जो है वो compact बनते जाते हैं. प्लविंग में सिर्फ टॉप सॉइल को लूज करते हो तुम एवरी सीजन, लोअर लेयर्स विल बिकम मोर एंड मोर कॉम्पैक्ट. बट यहाँ पर तुम हैवी व्हीकल्स यूज नहीं कर रहे हो तो there will be less compaction compared to, and organic matter which is added, it will reduce the bulk density of the soil. Okay, so those are the advantages of minimum tillage. Now disadvantages भी हैं इसके. Now because there is stubble, right, तुमने यहाँ पर सीड को सो किया बट सरफेस के ऊपर प्रीवियस सीजन का क्रॉप का रेसिड्यूज है, स्टबल है, सो देयर विल बी सम डिफिकल्टी फॉर द सीडलिंग टू इजीली एमर्ज. सो ये जो प्यूम्यूल है, द प्यूम्यूल will not be able to easily emerge. So that is one difficulty because of the residues. Seed germination is lower compared to conventional tillage. Conventional tillage के comparison में ज़्यादा seed rate हमको use करना पड़ता है. You have to use more seed. So minimum tillage, more nitrogen has to be added. Now what happens in conventional tillage is when you open up the soil, turn the soil upside down, make the soil loose, aeration बढ़ जाता है. In conventional tillage, aeration will be higher. Now when aeration is higher, aerobic bacteria, the nitrifying bacteria, they will mineralize the organic matter. Organic matter को mineralize करके इसमें ammonia, it will convert the protein into amino acids and then ammonia, then to nitrite and to nitrate. So in conventional tillage, this mineralization process will be faster because of the more aeration and loose soil. So वहां पर जो भी organic matter है वो जल्दी decompose हो जाता है and you will get nutrients. So nitrogen will be provided to the plants quickly. In conventional tillage, in conservation tillage, ये तो conventional tillage में होता है. Now you see conservation tillage में here we are talking about minimum tillage. Organic matter तो है, organic matter is higher in comparison to your fields where conventional tillage is followed because we keep the residues on the surface. Here the organic matter decomposition rate will be slow. Organic matter content is there, but slow mineralization, because we are not making the soil loose, turning it upside down. Aeration बढ़ता नहीं है यहाँ पर. So here mineralization process does take place, but slow होता है. So nitrogen will not be quickly available. So यहाँ पर additional nitrogen डालना पड़ता है. Organic matter decomposition होता है यहाँ पर भी. In minimum tillage also organic matter decomposition takes place, but comparatively it is slow when you compare it with conventional tillage. There quickly nitrates will be available. Here you have to apply additional nitrogen because the organic matter decomposition is quite slow. So in certain crops, like for example your legumes, nodulation is affected. So root nodules are formed by your symbiotic bacteria with legumes. Now this nodulation will be affected if the soil is more compact and aeration is not that much. अगर ज़्यादा aeration नहीं है, conventional tillage में aeration will be more. Minimum tillage में we are not disturbing the soil to that extent, so here aeration will be comparatively less, and here the soil will be comparatively more compact. वहाँ तो पूरा soil को loose बना रहे हो ना, उसकी comparison में थोड़ा सा compact होता है, so उसकी वजह से nodulation effect होता है. So it is another disadvantage. Nodulation will be slightly affected in case of legumes. Sowing operations are difficult with ordinary implements. Special implements चाहिए यहाँ पर sowing के लिए, because you have to cut through the soil, cut through the residues, because residues are on the surface, they are not turned upside down, surface पे ही हैं, उनको cut करके sowing करना पड़ता है, तो special implements are required. So here weeds, we are not disturbing the soil. जैसे conventional crop production है, so in normal crop production you go for manual weeding. Sometimes manual weeding में hand hoe से soil को disturb करते हो, so that disturbance is not done in case of conservation tillage. तो यहाँ पर herbicides का ज़्यादा usage होता है, so you use more herbicides in conservation tillage compared to your conventional tillage. So soils where conventional tillage is followed, there you can go for manual weeding, you can disturb the soil, you can remove the weeds by hoeing or disturbing the soil, so that is not done here. So in case of conservation tillage we use more herbicide. ये एक थोड़ा सा disadvantage है. So continuous use of herbicides causes pollution problem and dominance of perennial problematic weeds, because you are not manually pulling them out, you use herbicides. Herbicide use करोगे तो pollution है, and perennial weeds they establish in the field, उनको निकालना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल हो जाता है unless you use systemic herbicides. Okay, now we come for zero tillage. ये भी conservation tillage का ही part है. Here it is extreme form. Minimum tillage में we do disturb the soil. Shallow ploughing is done just for preparing seed bed and sowing. We do not turn the soil upside down. In zero tillage we just open the soil. हम लोग just एक coulter use करते हैं, so it is a disc like structure which cuts through the residues. ये soil के ऊपर residues हैं. Okay, coulter generally it cuts through the residues, and ये जो narrow slit बनाता है, it cuts through the residues and prepares a narrow slit, and inside this slit we will sow the seed. Okay, so zero tillage is extreme form of tillage. Oh, sorry, extreme form of conservation tillage, where we do not disturb the soil. We open the soil using coulters, special disc like implements which will cut through the residues. Soil के ऊपर जो भी तुम्हारे previous season के crop के residues हैं उसको cut करता है, and we sow the seeds in the gap. So this is an extreme form of minimum tillage. So we do not disturb the soil, just we open the soil using coulters. These are disc like structures which cut open through the soil and we sow the seeds. So primary tillage is completely avoided, so will not turn the soil upside, वो तो होता ही नहीं है. Secondary tillage is restricted to seed bed preparation, and that too only row zone, that means seed bed means we are just opening a slit in the soil where seeds are sown. So it is also known as no till. Zero till को no till भी बोलते हैं. And is resorted to areas, in those areas where soils are subjected to wind and water erosion. जहां पर erosion का ज्यादा problem है वहां पर हम लोग zero tillage follow करते हैं mainly. Or there are other difficulties like timing of tillage operation is too difficult. You have to immediately go for sowing the next crop. You don't have time for tillage, प्रॉपर सॉइल को टिल करके वो ऑर्गेनिक मैटर डिकम्पोज, उतना टाइम नहीं है. यू हैव टू इमीडिएटली, एक दिन में ही तुमको नेक्स्ट डे आफ्टर हार्वेस्टिंग इमीडिएटली यू हैव टू गो फॉर सोइंग. इन सच कंडीशंस आल्सो you have you can resort to zero tillage. And where प्राइमरी टिलेज ऑपरेशंस आर वेरी कॉस्टली, ट्रैक्टर वो लेना, उसको अंदर डीजल चलाना या फिर ट्रैक्टर को रेंट पे लेके आना, ऑल दोस ऑपरेशंस दे कॉस्ट. सो वेयर यू डोंट हैव money, or where erosion problem is very severe, or where you don't have time for tillage operation and all that, you immediately go for zero tillage. So these are the conditions where zero tillage is done, mainly erosion को रोकने के लिए, याद रखो, ठीक है. So zero tilled soils are homogeneous in structure with more number of earthworms. Obviously what happens, we keep the residues on the surface. So soil is always covered with previous season's stubbles. Soil का surface हमेशा organic matter से cover रहता है. So the residues will be at different stages of decomposition, but soil will always be covered with plant residue. Now as we keep on going for zero tillage on a particular field, तुम zero tillage practice कर रहे हो over years, 4 साल हो गए, 5 साल हो गए. So what will happen after 4 or 5 years? The organic matter level will build up. So that will help, I mean, more earthworms. The diversity of the biotic diversity of the soil will be higher. You will have more diverse microbial flora and fauna. Your animals such as insects, earthworms, वो भी ज़्यादा होंगे. So their diversity will be higher. So especially beneficial animals. So organic matter content increases due to slow mineralization. मिनिमम टिलेज में भी एक प्रॉब्लम था, यहां पर भी एक डिसएडवांटेज है. क्या है? द मिनरलाइजेशन प्रोसेस, ऑर्गेनिक मैटर डिकम्पोजिशन इज स्लो, सो ऑर्गेनिक मैटर विल बिल्ड अप ओवर द years. Now, surface runoff is reduced due to the presence of mulch. So ये जो plant residues है, previous season plant residues, right? So this is called as mulch. ये organic mulch है. So mulch is anything which is used to cover the soil. प्लास्टिक से अगर तुम कवर करते हो तो प्लास्टिक मल्च बोलते हैं. So plastic sheets can be used for reducing the weed growth. So plastic mulch बोलते हैं. If you are using organic material to cover the soil, it is called as organic mulch. So surface runoff is reduced. बताया था, if you have soil surface and plant residues are there, जो रन ऑफ है, रन ऑफ वाटर, उसका जो वेलोसिटी है, इट विल बी रिड्यूस्ड. सो द रेसिड्यूज विल एक्ट एज स्पीड ब्रेकर कंपेयर टू स्मूथ सॉइल वेयर रन ऑफ कैन मूव फास्ट. जो भी एक्सेस वाटर है बारिश से, वो जल्दी जाएगा, स्पीड ज्यादा होगा, वेलोसिटी ज्यादा होगा, सो इट विल हैव मोर फोर्स, इट कैन रिमूव द सॉइल इजीली. हियर इन zero tilled soils, soil surface is always covered with residues because we don't overturn the soil residues, है ना. प्लविंग नहीं कर रहे हैं तो सॉइल के ऊपर जो भी तुम्हारा मल्च है, इट विल नॉट बी टर्न्ड अपसाइड डाउन. सो सॉइल सरफेस विल बी ऑलवेज कवर्ड विथ रेसिड्यूज. सो रन ऑफ स्पीड विल रिड्यूस एंड they will have more time to infiltrate into the soil. क्योंकि organic matter ज़्यादा है, soil structure will be there, soil structure will be improved, more pores will be there, more amount of water will enter, and this runoff volume will reduce, ultimately reducing the erosion. So the favorable effect of zero tillage on soil physical properties are apparent after 2 years of its practice. ऐसा नहीं है कि this season you have decided that I will not practice conventional tillage, अब से मैं zero tillage करूंगा. तो ऑर्गेनिक मैटर लेवल बिल्डअप नहीं होता है इमीडिएटली, इट विल टेक फ्यू सीजन्स. सो 2 साल या उसके बाद ही तुमको वो इफेक्ट दिखेगा. zero tillage के advantages. So in no till system we can expect 50 to 100% of the soil surface always covered with plant residues. So stubbles previous season का जो भी plant residues है, crop residues है, they will cover at least 50% of the soil surface. It can cover even 100%, यानी 50 से ज्यादा होना चाहिए हमेशा, 50 to 100% के बीच में. So well managed continuous zero tillage systems include cover crops. So we generally go for those crops which produce more biomass. So cover crops like cowpea, groundnut. So ज्यादा जो leaves, ज्यादा branches जो produce करते हैं. Okay. So in zero tillage systems we grow such crops which produce more biomass. एंड हाई रेसिड्यू प्रोड्यूसिंग क्रॉप्स इन रोटेशन. सो जो भी क्रॉप रोटेशन तुम फॉलो कर रहे हो उसमें ऐसे क्रॉप्स लगाते हैं जो ज्यादा बायोमास प्रोड्यूस करें. सो सच सिस्टम्स कीप द सॉइल कंप्लीटली कवर्ड विथ रेसिड्यूज ऑल द टाइम. दे बिल्ड अप ऑर्गेनिक मैटर, ऑर्गेनिक सरफेस लेयर्स. So soil will slowly become rich in organic matter. So organic matter जो content है जो normal soils में 0 to 5% होता है, arable soils में that will go up. So 6%, 7%, 8%. So slowly the soil will become similar to that we see in the forest. Forest में भी तुम्हारा organic matter content ज़्यादा होता है soil में. So that is the main difference between agricultural soils and forest soils. Agricultural soils have less organic matter, less biological diversity compared to forest soils. When you go for zero tillage, no till या zero till, it involves leaving the soil undisturbed from harvest to planting except for nutrient injection. हमने बोला था नाइट्रोजन देना पड़ता है, because of slow mineralization you have to apply additional nitrogen. So nitrogen injection के लिए you have to disturb the soil to certain extent. So planting or drilling is accomplished using a narrow seed bed or slot created by coulters. So these are disc like, जैसे disc plow होता है उसी टाइप का implement है, coulters और row cleaners which will open a slit. Soil में एक slit open करता है वो, and in this, inside this slit you will put your seed. Okay, so surface will be covered with, ये इसको काट के surface is covered with mulch, it will just open a slit into the soil where you will place the seed. So weed control, now you're not disturbing the soil, you're not manually uprooting the weeds. So how? Soil तो disturb नहीं कर रहे हो, तो weed control कैसे होता है? It is accomplished by using herbicide. So remember this, herbicides usage is higher in zero tillage plots. So weed control is accomplished primarily with herbicides. तो यहाँ manual weeding, सॉइल को डिस्टर्ब करके होइंग ऑपरेशन से नहीं करते, यहाँ हर्बिसाइड्स डालते हैं. सो एक मेजर डिसएडवांटेज जीरो टिलेज सिस्टम्स में ये है, इट यूजेस मोर हर्बिसाइड. सो जीरो टिलेज we use different types of herbicides. So after the crop is harvested you have to go for the next crop. So after the crop is harvested, so to kill the plants we go for जो भी previous season harvesting हो गया है, to kill and subdue the previous season plants or stubbles we use broad spectrum herbicides. So paraquat or glyphosate, they are broad spectrum herbicides. Okay, they are non-selective भी बोल सकते हो, they are non-selective herbicides. They will kill anything green. So once you have harvested the crop you have to go for the sowing of next crop. So before you go for that, before you sow the next crop you have to kill the stubbles that are standing. तो उनको मारने के लिए हम लोग paraquat or glyphosate, these are broad spectrum, they will kill anything which is green. So to kill the previous season stubble we use broad spectrum herbicides, and we have to select the herbicide so that ये ज्यादा दिन तक इसके रेसिड्यूज सॉइल में ना रहे. सो they should have relatively short residual effect. But if the residues remain, why we are going for broad spectrum herbicides with short residual effect? What does mean by residual effect? So once you apply the herbicides, the herbicide will remain in the soil active. It will not be broken down quickly. Okay, it will take at least 20 days or 1 month to completely break down. So till the time the herbicide is present in the soil, weeds will not germinate. So to control the weed for long period of time, herbicide spray करने के बाद 1 महीने तक तुमको जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, because the herbicide residues will be there in the soil and they will not allow the weeds to germinate. Okay, so herbicide when you apply, they should their residues should not remain in the soil for a very long period of time. 4 महीने 5 महीने तक अगर रेसिड्यूज रहेंगे तो नेक्स्ट क्रॉप सो नहीं कर पाओगे. It will affect the germination of the next crop also. So you have to plan in such a way, you have to select a herbicide which has certain residual effect, 15 days 20 days 30 days तक रहे, उसके बाद खत्म हो जाए. The herbicide will be broken down in the soil by microbes. So once you spray this herbicide, their effect should be minimized, or their residual effect should be removed, or they will be easily broken down after some time by microbes. तो ऐसा होना चाहिए herbicide, especially in zero tillage, that they can kill, they should be broad spectrum, they will kill anything which is green, and they should have a shorter residual period. They should have short residual period, they will not remain active in the soil for long, so that next crop तुम जल्दी sow कर सको. Otherwise next crop का जो seed है वो भी germinate नहीं होगा because of herbicides. So initially to kill the previous season stubble, you go for broad spectrum herbicides या non-selective herbicides which has a shorter duration, where residues will not remain in the soil for long period of time. But once your crop is established, you have your crop growing in the next season, now you use selective herbicides. Now what are selective herbicides? So selective herbicides are those which will kill the weeds but they will not harm the crops. Okay, herbicides में broadly दो categories है, selective and non-selective. So selective herbicides selectively control the weeds without affecting the crop. Non-selective, the broad spectrum, they will kill anything that is green, crop, weed, they will not distinguish, they will kill anything which is green. Okay, so during the crop production we use selective herbicides. So during the subsequent stages, बाद में, once the sowing is done and everything, we use selective and persistent herbicides. So they should persist in the soil for at least a month or 2 months, so that weed control will be there. So during the crop production we go for selective herbicides, and which will remain persistent in the soil for at least a month or so. So herbicides applied should not cause injury to the crop. So in no tillage or zero tillage system, herbicide application, planting and harvesting are main cultural operations. एक nitrogen injection भी एक है. So these are the main operations that you do during the crop cultivation. Now this method has been successfully adopted for planting grasses and legumes, यानी grains and legumes के लिए already adopt कर चुके हैं हम लोग, right? For many crops, zero tillage system has been practiced. So higher dosage of nitrogen has to be applied. I have already mentioned that mineralization rate is slow. Organic matter decomposition does take place, but it is not as fast as in conventional tillage. So you have to add additional nitrogen. ये एक disadvantage है. एक और disadvantage क्या है? Herbicides का usage ज़्यादा होता है. So large population of perennial weeds. So perennial weeds, they have storage structures. So rhizomes, corms, some storage structure will be there. So perennial weeds they establish in the field. उनको control करना मुश्किल होता है. So higher weed population is generally a problem in case of zero tillage. So this is a problem. Perennial weeds, because ploughing में क्या होता है ना, पूरा uproot हो जाता है. The weeds will be uprooted from the base. But here we don't disturb the soil. So this uprooting will not take place and perennial weeds they establish. Now, what are the merits? Prelims के क्वेश्चन में भी यही पूछा था, what are the merits of zero tillage? So zero tillage reduces the soil erosion and soil degradation. Obviously yes, soil erosion will be reduced because soil surface will be always covered with plant residues. So runoff speed will be reduced, more water will infiltrate, and erosion will be reduced. So it significantly reduces the cost of production by saving on tillage operation. So tillage operation, ट्रैक्टर से जो तुम प्लविंग कर रहे हो, it does cost, it may cost around 2000 2500 rupees depending upon the area. डीजल का कॉस्ट होता है. So reduced tillage means less wear and tear to the tractor. If you own a tractor, वो ट्रैक्टर भी रिपेयर में जल्दी आएगा अगर ज्यादा यूज करोगे. So wear and tear will also cost रिपेयर का. So zero tillage increases the yield. It has been observed over a period of time that conventional tillage के comparison में zero tillage gives 5 to 15% higher yield. This may be because of improving soil health, soil structure. Okay. So zero tillage reduces the incidence of Phalaris minor. इसको बोलते हैं गेहूं का मामा. So it is associate weed of your wheat. So Phalaris minor incidence will be reduced by 40 to 50%. So what happens in case of Phalaris minor is the seeds from the previous season, Phalaris minor का जो seeds है previous season में, they will be buried deep. Now during the, so those seeds which are buried very deep, they will not be able to germinate. So weed seeds जो surface के पास है ना वही germinate हो पाते हैं. The seeds which are near the surface, they will be able to germinate. The seeds which are buried deep, they will not be able to germinate, right? So but what you do during the ploughing, you turn the soil upside down, यानी नीचे वाला soil ऊपर आ जाता है, ऊपर वाला soil नीचे चले जाता है. So these deeply buried seeds of Phalaris minor from the previous seasons, they come to the top. So next season में तुम्हारा Phalaris minor का incidence, these weeds, they will grow in your field. So weeds का incidence ज़्यादा हो जाता है. So this has been observed in conventional tillage. But zero tillage में you don't turn the soil upside down. So previous season के जो weeds हैं, weed के seeds हैं which are buried deep, they will remain there. So they will not come to the surface because you are not turning the soil upside down as in case of conventional tillage. So their number will reduce. And zero tillage improves the fertilizer use efficiency through better placement. Now you are not broadcasting, so you place the fertilizer. I mean it depends तुम कैसा method use कर रहे हो. So less water is used because the zero tilled fields, they are rich in organic matter, they can hold water for long period of time. Okay, so they use less water, so conservation of water is also going on here. Less irrigation is required, you have to irrigate less frequently. Soil is also protected, erosion is reduced. So less water is used in the system, so nitrogen leaching is also minimized. So excessive water अगर तुम देते हो तो all the soluble nitrogen may go to the deeper layers and it is not available to the plants. So leaching of nitrogen is also minimized. Nitrogen losses be, but again it is compensated because you have to use additional nitrogen because mineralization rate is slow. Okay, leaching losses नहीं होता है, but you have to use additional nitrogen again. So surface residue management is combined with, if surface residue management is combined with zero tillage, there is no need to burn the crop residues. So ये एक problem है, right? Stubble burning. So if you go for zero tillage, you don't need to burn the crop residue. So pollution will be minimized. So you can go for zero tillage system. Organic matter content will be higher. It will improve the soil health. It reduces the diesel consumption. So tractor use नहीं कर रहे हो तुम. You are not using the tractor for conventional tillage, so diesel cost will be minimized. And वो diesel से जो pollution हो रहा है, greenhouse gases, that will be reduced. So the anchored residues are left standing, which promote the population of beneficial insects. So previous season stubble will be left in the field. As such, it may encourage, they will harbor beneficial insects which can help in biological control of pests. That is again an advantage. Now we'll go through the list again. What are the demerits? So increase in soil density. So what is happening in conventional tillage? Conventional tillage में भी soil is becoming denser, but the lower layers, top surface जो है, top 30 to 40 centimeter is plowed regularly, and every season you will plow and you will make the soil loose. But here no plowing is done in zero tillage, so surface layers are comparatively denser when you compare to conventional tillage soils. Okay, surface density over the years slowly it will increase. Okay, so there is indication of increase in the soil density in time, यानी एकदम से नहीं but over the years, which causes reduced infiltration and reduce the pore space. इसीलिए nodulation effect होता है बोला था. Higher crop residues sometimes interfere with sowing. Right, crop residues पूरा है तो sow करोगे and the sown seeds they may not emerge. Residues they may interfere, they may act as hindrance for the seedling to germinate. तो सीड जर्मिनेशन इज लेस, तो ज्यादा सीड यूज करना पड़ता है. नॉर्मल जो सॉइल कन्वेंशनल टिलेज में जितना सॉइल जितना सीड रेट यूज करते हो ना, सपोज 100 kg ऑफ सीड इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर 1 acre ऑफ लैंड. ओके, 1 acre के लिए 100 kg चाहिए, तो यहाँ पर 20% ज्यादा यूज करना पड़ता है, बिकॉज सम ऑफ द सीड्स दे मे नॉट एमर्ज, seedlings they may not be able to emerge because these stubbles they may hinder the emergence of the seedling. So seedling establishment in zero tillage soil is 20% less. तो ज्यादा सीड यूज करना पड़ता है, 20 to 30% मोर सीड. यानी अगर 100 kg पर एकड़ कन्वेंशनल टिलेज में यूज कर रहे हो तो 120 to 130 kg तुमको जीरो टिलेज में यूज करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज सम ऑफ द सीडलिंग्स मे नॉट एमर्ज. दैट इज वन डिसएडवांटेज, ज्यादा सीड रेट यूज करना पड़ता है. सो इंक्रीज इन द perennial weeds, increase in the incidence of broad-leaved weeds, rumex species, grasses, wild oats, perennial weeds like sandon, dactylon. तो perennial weeds का problem है, because not you are not uprooting them, you are not turning the soil upside down, तो uproot नहीं कर रहे हो तो perennial weeds का problem है. हाँ, herbicide ज़्यादा यूज करते हैं इसमें, नाइट्रोजन भी एक्स्ट्रा अप्लाई करना पड़ता है because mineralization rate is slow, so those are demerits. Now so conservation tillage रिवाइज कर रहे हैं फिर से हम लोग. सो इन दिस यू हैव मिनिमम tillage and zero tillage. Extreme form of minimum tillage is zero tillage. So we are calling it conservation because we are conserving soil and water, both are conserved. Right, कैसे? Soil erosion is reduced, less irrigation is required because organic matter is high, so organic matter acts as sponge, it holds more water, तो ज्यादा irrigate करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी तुमको. ठीक है. So conservation tillage is a system of tillage in which organic residues are not inverted into the soil. We are not turning the soil upside down, so residues they will not be buried, they will remain on the surface. They remain on the surface as a protective cover against erosion and evaporation losses. Soil से जो moisture है वो भी evaporation कम होगा, less evaporation will take place, that means more moisture will remain in the soil. So evaporation losses are reduced, moisture conserve हो रहा है, soil conserve हो रहा है, no erosion or minimum erosion. Stubbles form a protective layer to cover the surface. It is usually referred as stubble mulch tillage. इसको stubble mulch tillage भी बोलते हैं. Conservation tillage is also referred to as stubble mulch tillage because crop residues, the stubble from the previous season is left on the surface as a mulch. Mulch is covering on the soil. So residues left on the soil surface interfere with seedbed preparation and sowing operations. So this is the disadvantage part. Objective क्या है? To conserve the soil and moisture. Water and soil को conserve करना. That is the main purpose of conservation tillage. So conservation tillage में दो forms है, minimum and zero tillage. Okay. Now coming back to the question that has been asked in the prelims. So what is or are the advantage or advantages of zero tillage? जो zero tillage के advantages क्या हैं? Sowing of wheat is possible without burning the residue of the previous crop. So you are keeping the residue, right? तुमको burn करने की जरूरत नहीं है. You are leaving the residue as such and you are sowing the next crop. So yes, You don't need to burn the residue of the rice to sow the wheat in the rabi. So kharif season का जो residues हैं rice का, they can remain on the surface and you can go for the sowing of wheat. Yes, it is true. ये advantage है, सही है. Without need for nursery of rice saplings, seedlings होना चाहिए वैसे. Direct planting of paddy seeds in the wet soil is possible. So zero tillage में we go for direct sowing. हाँ, जो नॉर्मल ट्रांसप्लांटेड पैडी होता है, जहां ट्रांसप्लांटिंग करते हैं, पडलिंग ऑपरेशन इज डन. द सॉइल इज impounded with water and you plow the soil in standing water condition. तो वो पडलिंग करके फिर ट्रांसप्लांट करते हैं. सो डायरेक्ट सीडेड राइस, you can directly sow the seeds of the rice using zero tillage. तो यहां पर ट्रांसप्लांट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, डायरेक्टली तुम सोइंग कर सकते हो. यस, इज इज ऑल्सो एन एडवांटेज. यू डोंट नीड टू प्रिपेयर द फील्ड, यू कैन डायरेक्टली सो द सीड्स. डायरेक्ट सीडेड राइस तुम लगा सकते हो. दिस इज ऑल्सो ट्रू. कार्बन सेक्वेस्ट्रेशन, ऑर्गेनिक मैटर एक्यूमुलेट हो रहा है, राइट? एवरी सीजन मोर ऑर्गेनिक मैटर इज एडेड एंड ऑर्गेनिक मैटर डिकम्पोजिशन इज स्लो हियर. रिमेंबर, ऑर्गेनिक मैटर डिकम्पोजिशन स्लो है. सो ऑर्गेनिक मैटर जब डिकम्पोज होता है तो क्या आता है? कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड वाटर. ऑर्गेनिक मैटर डिकम्पोजिशन will produce ultimately carbon dioxide and water and nutrients, nitrogen, sulfur, potassium, जो भी है वो soil में release होता है and carbon dioxide and water will be produced as a byproduct. So CO2 will add to greenhouse gases. पर अगर organic matter decomposition slow होगा, if it is slowed down, more organic matter is accumulated and less organic matter decomposition takes place. So over the time more carbon is accumulated, more carbon is sequestered. So this is also true. ज़्यादा कार्बन सॉइल में ऐड हो रहा है and less is released into the atmosphere. So carbon sequestration in the soil is possible. So all the three are the advantages. So your answer is this one. Now let us quickly revise, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन ना कैसे भी पूछ सकता है. सो व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस? सी, सो विच ऑफ दीज स्टेटमेंट्स इज ट्रू बोल के पूछ सकता है तुमको. सो इफ यू गो थ्रू, सो पॉजिटिव्स about zero tillage. So it reduces erosion, soil erosion reduce करता है, conserves moisture को conserve करता है. evaporation losses will be reduced because stubble act as mulch, it acts as a cover to reduce the evaporation losses. Organic matter in the soil will hold more moisture, so less irrigation is required, water conservation, right? Organic matter soil में increase होता है, right? Soil health will be improved over a period of time. Now coming to negatives, so यहाँ पर more nitrogen is added, then herbicide application, mainly weed control पूरा herbicide से होता है. perennial weeds का problem है. okay, then seed germination, 20% ज्यादा seed use करना पड़ता है because some of the seedlings they may not come out. So there are disadvantages but positives are more, right? So they can ask you this question in any way. They can give you random statements and they can ask you whether these are advantages or characteristics of zero tillage. All right, so you should be ready. So that was your zero tillage, its merits and demerits. All right. So that will be all. Thank you very much.